There is so much to be said about this beautiful space of the nonprofit sector. And when it comes to fundraising, there's so much that can be said about this business, this work that we do to enhance organizations and, more importantly, help the people that are being served by those organizations. But one of the most challenging things that many of you struggle with, I struggled with it as well at some point, is the actual asking and the power of that ask. Understanding what can be getting in our way, understanding the things that we need to know to be good at this, and more importantly, understanding the power of the ask. That is our focus in this episode. Let's huddle up. Hey, welcome to another episode of Huddle Up with Mark the Fun Coach. I am Mark Duncan. Before I get started, want to remind you that if you are interested in learning more about my services, you can go to thefundcoach.com and you can see all the offerings that are there as it relates to the work that I do. If you want to talk about one-on-one coaching, feel free to grab a free coaching session with me. There are other things that are coming up that I won't mention here, but I'm really, really excited about a particular offering that I'm going to unveil shortly. So stay tuned for that, because it is going to be one that will be accessible to the average nonprofit organization and very, very powerful. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, let's get into today's topic. Uh, one of the things that intrigued me about fundraising was this whole idea of asking for something that you need for your organization and getting it. And I found that fascinating. Many years ago, before I really knew what fundraising was, even though I was in the nonprofit space, I was told that we were doing a capital campaign in an organization I was working for. And I said, well, what's a capital campaign? And the executive director said, well, we need to raise $1.2 million to do some work on our facilities. And we're going to talk to people and ask them for money. And the thought of that just blew my mind, that you can, as an organization, in many ways control your own destiny if you do the right things and secure the resources that you need, right? Because at the end of the day, you need financial resources to be successful. You need money for your organization to thrive. And so when you can solve that, the sky's the limit as to what you can do for the people that you serve. And that's what excites me about this business. But some of us struggle with asking. And when I say asking, I'm talking about asking in the right way. And so I want to talk about an article that I read not too long ago in the Chronicle of Philanthropy. And this article speaks to a number of issues around federal funding, the tariffs, all these things that are happening right now in our space. Again, not here to advocate for or speak against these things. This is not a show that leans into a political position. But these things are happening. And as a result of these things happening, they are having an impact. And so, what this article talks about is the impact that tariffs are going to have on nonprofit organizations, and that because of the tariffs, costs will go up. And that's a fact. There's no way around that. That's just the way it is. For supplies, for food, things that nonprofit organizations have already budgeted for and could see an increase in those things. That's not my point here. My point here is that in this article, um, someone from the National Council of Nonprofits was interviewed to sort of talk about how nonprofits navigate through what's happening right now. And there's something that he said, and the gentleman that was interviewed, his name is Rick Cohen. I'm sure he would not mind me mentioning his name since this is a public publication. He's the chief operating officer for the National Council of Nonprofits. And he's quoted as saying this: nonprofits aren't going to get added donations to cover the cost of things going up. He talks about government contracts and that they aren't getting revised upward to reflect the increase in costs. Tariffs will just further stretch nonprofits that are already overstretched. My point is in the first thing that he says here: nonprofits aren't going to get added donations to cover the costs of things going up. This was disturbing to me. This is in a periodical, in a publication that is designed for nonprofit leaders to read so that they can be informed and empowered around issues around philanthropy. And so to make that bold statement, I think was irresponsible, because I don't think it's true. You see, donors respond to the moment, especially if the moment is something that is out of that organization's control. We saw this happen during the pandemic. A lot of nonprofit organizations had to pivot, they had to shift, especially those that were primarily in the fee-for-service space, meaning that they generated a majority of their revenue through services that they provide, and then they would supplement that with fundraising. But when the pandemic hit, in-person fee-for-service programs, those were halted. No control. And so individuals stepped up when they were asked to support those organizations. And so my point here is that to make a claim that donors aren't going to step up, nonprofits aren't going to get added donations to cover the cost of things going up, I disagree with that. I think they will. I think you will. But you only will, or you'll only get those additional donations if you ask. You see, helping your constituents understand the moment is critical. Now, will donors just arbitrarily open up their phones or open up their computer, turn on their computers, or pick up the phone and call and make donations out of the blue? No, not really. Some will, especially if they have a real strong connection to your mission. They will, but they need to be asked. You've got to create or paint a picture of what's really happening and how it's impacting your organization, and then you need to follow that up with an ask. Now, and that's on the mass solicitation level. So that can be an email, that can be a video that's in an email making this plea. That can go on your social media platforms. It could be a direct mail piece explaining what has happened, not taking a position necessarily, just it is what it is. And because of what's going on, it is having this impact on our organization. And because of that, we need your support. So I want to talk about the elements of a powerful ask, because it's one thing to just say, hey, give us some help, which is really sort of a blanket ask with very little detail. And the elements of a powerful ask, there are many of them, but I'm going to talk about these three things first, things that you need to have in place before you make the ask. And one is you have to be absolutely clear what the dollars are going to be used for. Now, if it's for general operations, then say that. If it's for a particular need that you have in your operating budget, say that. Okay. So the what the dollars are for is critical. Second, you have to be clear about the amount that you need. See, we often think about these things in the context of, oh, we just need to raise money. We got to get money in the door fast. But you've got to provide context for your donors. How much do you need? Because if you only need $5,000, okay, say that you need $5,000. It is going to feel more doable for your donors to be able to hit that number. But if you need $100,000, they need to know that too. Be clear. How much do you need? Okay. What is it for? How much do you need? And third, when do you need the money by? This is the thing that many will forget to focus on. Now, when we're in 24-hour campaigns through a Giving Tuesday or any local 24-hour campaign, much of this is sort of built in, right? You have to actually provide information about those three things. What's the money for? How much do you need? And the when do you need it by? That's pretty clear because it's a 24-hour campaign. So you need it by the end of that 24-hour period. But if we're talking about initiatives outside of that uh, structure, you've got to create that structure. You've got to tee your constituents up so that they understand what's really happening. What's it for? How much do you need? And when do you need it by? Really clear. You need to know all of that stuff even before you solicit so that you paint the proper picture. Now, when you're asking for the gift itself, and now I'm talking about the face to face relationship fundraising ask, you have to be super clear about what you're asking for. There has to be strong clarity there. You have to be compelling, right? And when you're in the process of being compelling, depending on how well you know the person, you need to understand what language they speak. You hear me say this often: head versus heart, thinker versus feeler. You have to understand from what position, from what space do they make decisions? Are they driven by how they feel or by how they think? And that is how you need to speak to them. If you know that they're driven more by emotion, then you're going to talk about the people that are being served and what they won't get or what they will get if you support the organization and we support this particular initiative. If they're thinkers, then you need to talk about data and the things that are important to that particular donor so that they see this gift as a wise investment. And that is the primary difference, by the way, between head versus heart, thinkers versus feelers, is that our thinkers really look at this giving as an investment, right? And they want to, even though they're not expecting anything, obviously, in return, but they're going to invest in your organization because they trust your leadership. They trust how you're going to spend the money. They trust how you're managing your financial resources because you've shown them all of that. Your feelers, they're your givers. They're the ones who are going to give because they care deeply about the people being served. Maybe because they may have been one of those people being served at one point. And they're so grateful for where they are. They're expressing that gratitude by giving. See, that's what's really powerful about the ask. Because when you think about this, you're really not asking. You're presenting your donors with the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of the people that you serve. Let me say that again. You're asking your donors and you are presenting them with the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of the people that you serve. Feels a little different, doesn't it? Feels a little empowering because, after all, you are the conduit between that wealthy, high capacity, generous donor and the people that you serve. That's what's so beautiful about this work that we do, is that we get to wake up and go to bed every night knowing that we can make a difference, one relationship at a time, that can make a difference in many, many lives all at once. It's amazing. It's amazing, this work. But I want you to understand that the power of the ask has to do with how well you convey to your donors what you're asking for. So that clarity, that conviction, and then of course you need to be very, very specific. Don't just say, hey, um, we'd love for you to support us. That's not an ask. Even if you pose it as a question, will you support us? That's really not an ask. You see, an ask happens when you're specific. What do you need from this particular person? Tell them, ask them. We would like to know if you would make a gift of $50,000 to support this initiative. That's pretty clear. That's pretty clear. Versus, we'd like to know if you would get on board. Now, imagine if you ask somebody if they would get on board and you've given them no idea, no context. You didn't tell them how much you need for this particular initiative. You didn't tell them how much your operating budget is. Like, you gave them really no sense of the parameters that you're operating in so they can see themselves being able to help. So the more information you give them, I'm not telling you to go into the weeds here, but the more information that you give them, that helps create the story in a way that is clear and compelling, right? And specific, then the better off you're going to be. So tell the complete story, create that sense of urgency, help them understand what your needs are. Because if you ask and they take a week to think about it and you need this tomorrow, now I'm not suggesting that you are in a position like that. But my point here is that you want to make sure that they understand the sense of urgency so that you can take these dollars and use them for good. And that would be to help the people that you serve. So I'm going to push back again on this quote. Nonprofits aren't going to get added donations to cover the cost of things going up is, I think, completely untrue, because I think they can get those gifts if they ask for them. Tell the story about what's going on. Donors understand that some things are out of your control, and they will step up if you present them with the opportunity to change the lives of the people that you serve. So be bold. Think about the people that you serve when you ask. Don't think about yourself. Don't think about even what the donor is going to think. Because, quite frankly, when you start getting into that framing, you're essentially talking about what you think. And you don't want to project what you think they're going to say onto them. Give them the opportunity to answer. And whatever that answer is, you roll with it. It is not going to compromise, damage, ruin the relationship at all. Just got to give them the opportunity. And whatever may be happening inside of you around your discomfort, fear, anxiety around asking for that gift, there's inner work that you must do. One, to create the awareness of where that's coming from. And then once you are aware of that, understand that that's your money story, not the story of the person sitting in front of you. That's another podcast, of course, another episode. I've done episodes on that, and we'll continue to do that because that's the kind of work that I do with people that I work with, is helping them understand what that looks like so that they can move beyond that. So I hope this is helpful to you. Be bold. If you're an organization that is affected by what's happening right now, regardless of where you fall and how you feel about the political space, you got a job to do. You have people that you are helping. And so if this is helpful to you, great. If you want to talk more about this, feel free to schedule a complimentary coaching session with me. We can talk about what that looks like, and perhaps you may be interested in actually doing some work with me to get past that. Hope this is helpful. As always, this fundraising thing that we do, it's not about the dollars. It's about what the dollars do for the people that you serve. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.